Before I started selling on Amazon in 2018, this is the video I wish I had. I've been selling on Amazon for almost 6 years now. I've sold over $5 million on the platform, and it has completely changed my life, but it's not all sunshine and rainbows like you might see out there all the time. So in this video, I'm going to give you a reality check on what it's actually like to sell products on Amazon so you can decide if it's right for you or not. And to be honest, it's difficult for me to think of negative aspects about selling on Amazon. It's completely changed my life, but there are definite downsides that I want to be fully transparent so you can make the right decision for yourself. So the first big myth that I want to talk about when it comes to selling on Amazon is that you see a lot of the gurus out there marketing it as like a passive income opportunity. And to be honest, passive income barely exists in almost any form. It's just a really popular buzzword to use. Maybe if you're buying stocks with dividends, that type of stuff would truly be passive income. But most of the time, even when it comes to buying real estate or selling products on Amazon, all of these ways to make money involve upkeep, keeping the business running smoothly. Things can go wrong. You have to get in there and fix the fires. And that's especially true with Amazon, especially in the beginning. Because when it comes to selling on Amazon, a lot of people make the initial process even harder than it needs to be on themselves. They go out and they find some random product on Alibaba, they list it on Amazon, they try to buy ads, marketing, the whole 9 yards. And especially if this is your first business, that is a ton of work and a ton of expertise that you're gonna have to build all at once to understand a brand new business. So I went about it in a completely different way that I'm gonna share with you. And over the course of the last few years, I've also been able to get my personal time obligation down to under an hour a day in my business. We did about $270,000 in sales just this month. So while Amazon is completely not passive, it absolutely has long-term potential for you to build a business that makes your time worth way more money than you think it can be. Because if you had told me 6 years ago when I had the $1,000 to my name that I'd be able to build a legit business doing multiple millions a year with very little of my own time input, I would have thought you were crazy. But when it comes to selling on Amazon, I took the easy route of selling name brand products on Amazon. So for example, instead of waiting for those products to ship from overseas from China, I just buy items like this pair of shoes that I found on sale for about $10.50, and then I turned around and sold it over on Amazon for about $25. And in the early days, it takes a lot of time to actively go out and find those profitable products. But as you find more and more, you start to build a super profitable catalog of products that you can come back to over time. And that's where my business has massively grown. On top of just rebuying those same product opportunities over and over again, I've also been able to build a team of virtual assistants that find all the products, they buy all the products for me, they ship them off to a prep center who then sends it to Amazon for me, and then Amazon makes the sales. So I actually haven't even seen any of the products that I've sold in my business for about 18 months now, but it definitely wasn't like that on day one. So I don't want you to think that it's going to be passive income on day one, but you can definitely start to pull yourself out and make your time way more valuable as you scale. The second big misconception that a lot of new Amazon sellers have, and this is another reality check for you, is that Amazon is a competitive marketplace. Anyone who's out there talking about how there's so many buyers, like I saw a video the other day where they said there's more buyers on Amazon than sellers. Obviously, I would hope there's more than one seller to one buyer on the platform. I don't know about you, but I want to sell more than the $5,000 or $6,000 that my one buyer is going to buy. I thought that was a ridiculous example that one of the gurus out there had used. But I don't say that to scare you, because there are some things that we can do, some measures that we can take to absolutely crush the competition on Amazon. And obviously there wouldn't be Amazon sellers who have been in the game for 5, 10, 20 years if there was no way to beat out the competition on Amazon. For me and my business, where I buy products from big name brand websites like Nike, Puma, Vitacost, iHerb, any of these big retailers that you see out there, the big competitive advantage is starting to understand the sales cycles of these websites. So every time I start looking for profitable products to sell on Amazon, I take a note of the best coupon or the best sale that I've ever seen on a certain website. And then every time I see that certain sale roll back around, I'm going to dive super deep, specifically look at that brand of products. And if you want to make it even easier, you can use tools like SellerAmp to look at the storefronts of people who are selling that brand that you know is super cheap today. Because when most people talk about how Amazon is too competitive or too saturated, they're using the same tired methods that just aren't going to work anymore. Unfortunately, you can't buy stuff at retail price at Walmart.com for $10 and sell it on Amazon for 20 and expect it to stay profitable for years. That's just not how it works anymore. But if you're that seller who's going the extra mile, you're finding the coupon, you find a little bit of cash back to stack, you're adding that discounted gift card, you're going that extra mile, doing the work that other sellers are not willing to do, you're going to last a really long time. And that's why my business has been able to stay profitable on Amazon. So while Amazon is competitive, there's still plenty of niches where you can go in, use some specialized knowledge that you might already have, some knowledge that you can learn just by looking at as many products as possible. And as long as you're not just banging your head against the wall trying the same thing over and over again that's just simply not working and hasn't worked for a long time, you'll be set. A third reality check that I want to give for you guys, I want to talk about profit margins when it comes to selling on Amazon. Because a lot of people like to talk about making big sales numbers and how much revenue they're able to do on Amazon. And I know even I'm guilty of that. It's super fun just to talk about these big, massive numbers, but I want to give you a quick reality check on what the profit behind a lot of the big sales numbers you see all over Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Twitter. So for most sellers who are doing online arbitrage, the typical margin is going to be anywhere from 10 all the way up to 25%, depending on how much of a ninja at sourcing you are, depending on how much of the business you have outsourced. So for me, since I have so much of my business outsourced, I'm super willing to make that trade-off in my profit margins so I can spend time with friends and family making more videos like this. And so in my business, I shoot closer to that 10% margin range. Other sellers who are hustling, they're doing every single step of the process themselves, they're probably pushing 20-25% margins, especially when they're buying really quality inventory. But when you see people flashing those big $10,000, $50,000, $200,000 sales months, just keep in mind that they're probably making anywhere from 10 to 20% on average. But at the end of the day, I'm super satisfied with how much money I'm able to make per hour working on my Amazon business. Even if the margins aren't as crazy high as you expect, or you hear a lot of other people claiming their margins are, I'm super happy to spend as little time on my business as possible, as long as it continues to make that profit so I can focus on the things that actually matter in life. And I'm sure that's probably a priority for you as well if you're coming from the 9-to-5 job or just getting burned out on life in general, working all the time. I would so much rather have time to work on hobbies, work on other side businesses, rather than spending hours and hours of extra time on my Amazon business. But that decision is totally up to you. You can decide if that profit margin is worth the effort in your mind or it's not. I just tend to hear the complaints about profit margin from the types of people that are working that $15 an hour job. They're like, oh, you're only making 10% on $200,000 a month. Okay, sure, man. I get it, whatever. But very rarely do I hear actually successful people talking a bunch of smack about margins and all that kind of stuff. The fourth aspect of selling on Amazon that can be very annoying, and I want you to know up front, is that Amazon's rules can change pretty much at any time, and your business has to be adaptable. For example, I used to sell a ton of used books on Amazon. It used to be a much more viable business model to just buy a bunch of books at the thrift store, send them off to Amazon FBA, let them sit there for 3, 6, 9 months, and whenever a customer wanted to buy that item, it was worth the wait because I had paid 50 cents a buck for that book, and then it was going to end up selling for 20, 30, 50 bucks, right? But a couple years ago, Amazon added some new rules where you basically have to keep selling through your inventory faster for you to be able to earn storage space at Amazon. It makes total sense. They don't want their warehouses full of junk, but it forced a lot of Amazon sellers to pivot how they run their business. And luckily, I had already started making that transition out of selling used books into selling name brand products where I can buy it, ship it into Amazon. It's all sold out within usually a couple weeks, maybe a month. And even more recently, we had some changes with the shipping process to Amazon where they basically added some extra fees. They increased the price of shipping off to Amazon FBA. Luckily, the market itself tends to react to these price increases, especially after a few months or so. The buyers just end up covering the differences in cost there. Amazon sellers have generally made about the same margin since I started selling about 5 or 6 years ago, but it definitely changed the game for a lot of Amazon sellers. It made lighter products a lot better to sell on Amazon, and it made the shipping process a little bit more complicated. Luckily, we have fantastic software like Boxem that I was recently able to release that makes the shipping process smoother than ever. It helps you use things like 2D barcodes to get those check-in times at Amazon much faster than before, and just generally saves you a ton of time as an Amazon seller and a business owner compared to the slow, overly complicated way of shipping products to Amazon using the default methods on Seller Central. And the fifth thing that I want to talk about that's super important to know before you jump into selling on Amazon, this one might sound obvious, but it takes money to make money on Amazon, especially when it comes to this business where we're buying inventory and trying to flip it as fast as possible. Obviously, that money that you have is going to continue to grow and snowball as you grow your business, but a lot of people aren't ready for, or at least they're not expecting, how long they might want to just keep reinvesting all of the money that their business is making rather than immediately starting to pull profits. The idea of quitting my 9-to-5 job right away, all that kind of stuff. I have seen sellers do that pretty quickly after starting to sell on Amazon, but it's generally a lot smarter for you to reinvest as much profit as possible back into your business. I reinvested pretty much all the profit my Amazon business made for over the first year, and it's because I was able to reinvest pretty much all of that profit that I was able to grow faster as an Amazon seller compared to that seller who gets really attached to the idea of selling 10,000 bucks in their first month and they pull almost all the profit, they spend it on going out, that kind of stuff, but your business just isn't going to grow if you can't spend more than you did last month. A good rule of thumb when it comes to selling products on Amazon is that for every $1 you spend on products, that's going to turn into roughly $2 in revenue. So for example, if you want to be $1 million Amazon seller, you need to expect to be spending at least $500,000 on inventory during the course of the year. And so obviously you don't need to have all of that $500,000 all at once. You're typically going to be able to turn your money over about 5 or 6 times a year if you're doing the FBA business model. But if you're that guy or girl who wants to get started, you've got $1,000 to $2,000 to your name. That's an awesome starting point. That's what I started with, but just don't expect to be able to sell $1 million in your first year if you only have that like $1,000 startup, unless you're going to leverage some riskier things like credit cards. Amazon might also offer you some loans, but just keep in mind that Amazon is a cash intensive business, and the more money you start pulling out of your business, the slower your business is going to grow. But again, that's completely up to your decision making as a business owner. If you'd rather pull some profits, see that actually material in your life, or if you'd rather grow those imaginary numbers basically, and then pull the numbers once they get way bigger because you were able to self-sacrifice for a bit, live a little bit cheaper, and then your numbers got way bigger because you didn't pull constantly from your business. So with all that in mind, I hope you have a more realistic picture of what it's actually like to sell products on Amazon. Like I said at the beginning, it's hard for me to think of a lot of like negative things about selling on Amazon. I wouldn't have it any other way. If I could go back 6 years ago, I absolutely would do the exact same thing. I'd still go out, I'd sell products on Amazon. To be honest, some of the biggest regrets that I have as an Amazon seller, and I hear this talking to a lot of other successful sellers as well, is I tend to regret the items where I didn't buy enough, or I didn't go deep enough, or I was too scared to buy a whole bunch of something, rather than the items where it's like, oh, I lost some money here, or oh, I made a mistake here. It's generally the missed opportunity that keeps you up at night and keeps a lot of the successful sellers up at night about their Amazon business. And so if you're serious about making on Amazon, now that you have a full picture of what it's actually, I'll leave a couple links down below that are going to be super useful for you. One is the Amazon Launchpad, which is our completely free course to selling on Amazon, a couple hours of videos, PDFs, spreadsheets, all that type of stuff. Super valuable free guide that I made for you guys. And then you can also get free trials of the essential tools for selling on Amazon, like SellerAmp, which does your product sourcing, and Boxem, which tracks your shipments and analytics for your business. But let me know down below if you guys have any questions, comments, anything like that. I'm always super happy to answer those for you. And while you're down there, if you want to hit the subscribe and like button, that can help me out with the YouTube algorithm for sharing some value with your business here today. But I really appreciate you watching this video, and the YouTube algorithm thinks you need to watch this video next to keep making money online.